Shalom, giving our honor, all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Marachak Wadash, double understood elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the tabernacle of David, the four elect that are scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. There's just more wickedness that I'm reporting on. This is based in Cali, where 600 people were arrested for human trafficking. And of course, among those being trafficked were child victims. You know, and hey, what does it say in Sirach, the 10th chapter? You know, as is the manner of the ruler is, so are the people. Let's get that in Sirach 10. So you got the powers that be that are being exposed for the ultimate, you know, traffickers and, you know, sexual deviants, criminals. But they're, you know, they have immunity. You know, they're not going to be held accountable because they're above the law. But to the average citizen that's partaking in those same activities, they'll just, you know, lock you up. You know, even though in our law does say if the Bible, anybody that participate in these type of transactions, you actually are worthy of death. But, you know, the man of sin is who's in power. The man of lawlessness who doesn't govern by the laws of the Most High. And that's why this is part of the reason why the Lord's going to, you know, flatten this place. He's going to bring severe punishment to it. This is Sirach 10 and verse, I'll start at 1. This is in the GNT. It says, a wise ruler will educate his people and his government will be orderly. All the officials and all the citizens will be like their ruler. And the ruler, you know, they're sexual deviants. All right, they're human traffickers. You know, they indulge in child sacrifice and all these different things. So the people are going to be just like their rulers. You know, excluding the Lord's elect, you know, because the Lord said he created a remnant, you know, who will not bow their knee to the image of Baal. It also says in Apocrypha that he had created a cluster of grapes that he made perfect, you know, that he suffered from everything else. But the rest of our people, they're, you know, they were born in vain, so they're going to perish, you know, because they're no different than their father, the devil. And the lust of their father they would do. That includes all the tribes. Because, yeah, you got niggas and Hispanics that indulge in the same activities, all right, with all this trafficking. So, we go to the news segment. This is from ABC. And then we're just going to play this real quick, and then we'll get a few precepts.
Large part of the operation taking place right here in LA County, considered a hotbed for human trafficking.
Among the victims, teenagers from all over the country, some as young as 13. And Eyewitness News reporter Sid Garcia is live in downtown LA with all the details. Sid.
It's the 12th year in a row that this task force has been going after human traffickers. And in this latest one that happened about a week and a half ago,
they can go after everybody but the elite. If you're a Herzlist, you know, because on TikTok, you know, you can't use the Z word anymore. They're regulating it, you know, because they're the main primary traffickers of this earth. You know, they cracked down on some little hats. I believe it was down in was it Central or South America, Central America. They were trafficking people down there. You know, they got these underground tunnels. You know, to me, that looked like a trafficking enterprise. You know, they found those tunnels leading to those walls. You know, but They always got to push the focus on, Jake when they're doing it. But I'm pretty sure it's some little, mice, roaming through this operation. We're probably even controlling it. But the elite, they're not going to be held accountable for anything. That's why they're going to just be preserved until the day of judgment. They're going to try to escape, all the crimes that they committed in the earth. They're going to try to go into these underground bunkers and shelters and try to get away from judgment. But we know how that's going to go. All right, you devils are not going to escape. All right, but Babylon is definitely going to be brought to judgment for all of its wicked activities.
They made hundreds of arrests.
Human trafficking and child exploitation are devastating crimes.
The last week of January, local, state, and federal law enforcement teams went out to pick up solicitors and providers of young girls and boys involved in sex.
Whatever happened to that little hat that got caught out here? They said that he had dual citizenship, which a lot of them are operating that way. Let me see real quick. I wonder whatever happened with that. Let me just, see what's up with that, man. Because it seemed like that story just vanished. He vanished. Whatever happened with that? In August 2025, an Israeli government official. So he was a government official. So they definitely let his ass off the hook. They may have arrested him for public view, but I'm pretty sure they released his ass. Probably back in the land. It says official name Tom Artyom Alexandrovich was arrested in Las Vegas, Nevada, as part of an undercover operation targeting child sex predators. Suspect, the acting head of data and AI at Israel's National Cyber Directorate. He was in Las Vegas to attend a professional conference. He was charged with attempting to lure a child with a computer for a sexual act, a felony offense in Nevada. Operation The arrest was part of a multi-agency sting operation conducted by the Nevada Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and federal agents, which led to the arrest of several individuals. Release and departure. See, this is where it gets all, when they get to, use their connects and who they are to get off the hook. All right. Yeah, get out of jail free card. It says Alexandrovich was released on a standard $10,000 bond and allowed to leave the United States and return to Israel, a decision that generated significant controversy and speculation about potential government intervention. That's exactly what it was. They're, like I said, these people are above the law. They can do what they want. Okay, this is the man of sin here. Okay. Now, if there were righteous rulers, he would have been condemned under the law like the rest of the people. Let me get Sirach 15. Sirach 15 and I'll read verse 18. The point is at 20. It says, and this is in the Good News translation, it says, the Lord's wisdom and power are great, and he sees everything. All this activity that we're witnessing, that's being exposed, that's coming out. Even stuff that they're redacting, stuff that they're trying to cover up. The Lord sees it all, man. And he's going to hold you devils accountable. And ultimately, Babylon the Great, all the sins are piling up. It's reached to heaven, and that's why the Lord's going to, ultimately, he's going to wipe this place clean. All right? He's going to dissolve it because it's filthy, it's vile. Okay? It says, he is aware of everything a person does, and he takes care of those who fear him. He has never commanded anyone to be wicked or given anyone permission to sin. All right? But that's what Esau does because he's the man of lawlessness. Okay? And he doesn't give the proper judgments. He's not a righteous judge. All right? So this guy, he committed this act here in America because he has dual citizenship. They just, all right, we'll just send him back over there. And that's what they do with the Catholic priests too that get caught. When the Catholic priests get caught, molesting on a little boy or something like that, he'll get in trouble for a bit, but then they'll just, send him to another location where he's going to continue to do the same thing. If he knows that there's not going to be any repercussions for his actions, they're going to continue to do it. And as was at Ecclesiastes 8, when you don't judge them for their actions right then and there, they're going to continue. So that's why it's heavy. That's why it's rampant, because judgment doesn't go forth. Ecclesiastes 8 and 11, let me get it in the NLT. It says, when a crime is not punished quickly, people feel it is safe to do wrong. But even though a person sins 100 times and still lives a long time, I know that those who fear the Most High will be better off. The wicked will not prosper, for they do not fear the Most High. None of them do. It tells you that in Psalms, the 36th chapter, man. There's no fear of the Most High before their eyes. Okay? Their days will never grow long like the evening shadows. And this is not all that is meaningless in our world. In this life, good people are often treated as though they were wicked. Yeah, because this devil, he managed to turn the world upside down. So now good is seen as evil and evil is seen as good. And you can't call out anything wicked or evil without being, vilified, or labeled with some type of political terminology. It says, and wicked people are often treated as though they were good, especially E. He does wickedness, but then Esau deflect and throw out a Jake's face, and then the world will be quick to tear down the Jake and ignore the Edomite. It's been happening for the longest. Like, we hearing about all these things that Bill Gates and Trump, the Clintons, all these devils and what they were involved in, but then they throw out there Jay-Z's name, or now the little girl from that tape, that R. Kelly tape, she's back in circulation. Now she's coming out. Somebody dropped a bag on her, and now she's all these years during this time. The timing was very interesting. She comes out to the public and now want to tell her story. So now Jake's face is back in the news, in the media. And people's attention span is very low. They divert their attention very quickly anytime, the news cycle changes. And that's all by design. It's all designed to control the human behavior, So, and I'm not saying that, Jake is good, because niggas are wicked too. The scriptures say they overpass the deeds of the wicked. So them niggas that's getting that treatment, they should have never sold they soul to the devil any dang way. This is what they'll do. Shield themselves by, putting Jake as the face. But nevertheless, they all are wicked. All right. But anyway, when a sentence against an evil work isn't executed speedily, it's going to be in them to continue to do the wickedness. So this type of treatment, it's very it's partial. In the script, and these are supposed to be the Lord's people, but they're very partial. They don't execute the law the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to judge righteous judgment. Ain't that in the law? Ain't that in the Torah? Was it Deuteronomy? You're not supposed to have any respect of persons in judgment. Hold up, let me see. Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy 16 and 18, it says, Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy power giveth thee, throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. All right, righteous judgment. Thou shalt not wrest judgment. Thou shalt not respect persons. But they respect their own, but they'll condemn everybody else. It says, neither take a gift, for a gift doeth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. All right? So you're not supposed to judge with partial judgment, showing, favoritism or tribalism. Like, well, no, we'll condemn a goy, but one of our own do it, then we just, this is what we'll do. Deuteronomy 16 and 19 in the NLT, it says, you must never twist justice or show partiality. Never accept a bribe, for bribes blind the eyes of the wise and corrupt the decisions of the godly. And because their money is long, those people, they have influence over the court system. And really they're above the law. See? So they get away with a lot of this shit. And they run these operations, and then, they disappear when they, they crack down on it. This guy was able to leave on a $10,000 bond. Yeah. Court proceedings, he did not appear in person for his initial court hearing in October, with his lawyer stating he instructed his client he did not have to be there. The judge, however, denied the request to waive his appearance and stressed that appearance was mandatory under his bond documents. The judge can do what he want to do, but him being who he was, one of them, it don't even matter, because he could just be back over there now. All right? And he more than likely ain't got to serve a day. Official statements, the U.S. State Department denied allegations that the U.S. government intervened to secure his release, stating he was released by a state judge and did not claim diplomatic immunity. The Prime Minister's office downplayed the incident, referring to it as only a state employee being questioned. Yeah, man. So, and these people are your rulers. Okay? But anyway, let's get back to the story and then we'll finish and close out.
Trafficking.
So they even use these women because, you know, women are always been a seductive mechanism to lure people. You know, madams and stuff like that. You know, we know about these women. So they even use these women, you know, probably give them a bag, take them shopping, or promise them some stuff. And these women will go out there and try to, you know, get other women, get in their ear. You know, that's part of how, you know, pimps, whoremongers, you know, when they get women, sometimes they'll use other women to go and get victims. And the scripture speaks about that too. You know, whoremongering. What is a whoremonger? Basically, a whore seller. Let me do this. Because sometimes, you know, they get it. The Christians get it wrong, and I think even a blue letter gets it wrong about what it means to be a whoremonger. Hebrews 13:4, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers the Most High will judge. Revelation 21:8, it says, but the fearful and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and whoremongers. And those whores are basically in slavery. They're in captivity. They're being exploited, you know, by their owners, and they have to go out and do sexual acts for money, you know, forcibly by their owners. Because you got certain women out there that act independently. They on hard times, so they go out there and sell it to pay their bills or whatever. But then you got women that are actually trafficked, you know, straight up victims, man. It says, and you know, how these chicks drugged up. You know, they showed you in that movie, Taken, with Liam Neeson. You know, his daughter got kidnapped and she got put into a trafficking ring. And they'll drug them chicks up, you know, and have them situated in a building. It's sickening. It says, and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in a lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. All right, so when you also let me read this one. This is relevant too, because Paul was talking about, you know, the purpose of the law. 1 Timothy 1:9, it says, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, and for manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, that's a mo, for men stealers, that's traffickers or kidnappers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine, according to the glorious gospel of the blessed power which was committed to my trust. So the law will basically purge that behavior out. There's judgments for this behavior. You know, for men stealers, for moles, whoremongers. And a whoremonger is basically like a pimp. They say it's one who deals with a prostitute, but that would mean that who was it? Was Judah? That would mean that Judah was a whoremonger. That would mean that Hosea, who the Lord told to go get with a woman of whoredoms, that would mean that the Most High gave permission for them to commit sin. All right, so the initial definition that they have, the Newspeak definition, it doesn't mean having dealings with prostitutes. It literally, the word monger, it literally means to sell. Let's prove that. Let's look up the word monger. And it says, Old English mongere, which means merchant, trader, broker, to traffic, trade. Okay? Monger. To traffic, trade. From Latin, mongo, dealer, trader, slave dealer, which is related to mongonium, displaying of wares. So that's ultimately what it means. It means to trade, to deal. A dealer, like a car salesman, he's a car seller. So that would mean he's a vehicle monger or a car monger. Okay. And let me get another scripture. Let me go to our Bible. Let's go to Sirach, the 23rd chapter. Sirach 23, and I'm gonna start at 15. It says, "The man that is accustomed to opprobrious words will never be reformed all the days of his life. Two sorts of men multiply sin, and the third will bring wrath. A hot mind is a burning fire." Somebody that's ill-tempered, has a hot temper. "It will never be quenched till it be consumed. A fornicator in the body of his flesh," meaning a serial adulterer. A Trey Songz, Mr. Steal Your Girl type of dude. All right. He gonna continue to do it until, that final day when he gets put down. There's been a lot of those, a lot of jealousy killings as of late. Men finding out their spouses, dipping off on them, and they, taking them out and then taking themselves out on some murder-suicide tip. That's been on the rise, man. That's why you men, you need to get with the program, man. Some of you dudes are waking up a bit late to these modern women, these Western women. You'd be an idiot, a fool to marry these modern women. But anyway, continuing on, it says, "A fornicator in the body of his flesh will never cease till he have kindled a fire. All bread is sweet to a whoremonger. He will not leave off till he die." All right. So it says all bread is sweet to a whoremonger. All right. Because he's making his money by any means, man. The love of money is the root of all evil. So that's what a whoremonger is, okay? And, the laws against it. You're not supposed to take the wage of a whore, especially if you're a priest, and your daughter better not be a whore if you're a priest. You would have to, what would be the law on that? You would have to burn her with fire. And this is Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. So what do you think the judgment going to be for this place? All right. All this wild activity. But let's finish this out.
They call it Operation Reclaim and Rebuild. Statewide, more than 600 arrests were made. 156 adults and 14 children were rescued from the streets of LA and up and down the state. The task force also confiscated several weapons in their week-long sting. Young girls and boys given a second chance to reclaim and rebuild their lives.
Survivors need care. They need time. They need a chance to rebuild their lives. And our partnerships with these organizations are what allows those individuals to reclaim their lives and rebuild their lives.
There's a number of service organizations the deputy chief alluded to that help the victims of human trafficking start over and rebuild their lives. These groups work hand in hand with law enforcement to help survivors of human trafficking. Sarah Elender is with Saving Innocence.
Because together we create something far greater than the sum of all of our parts. A unified and collective, collaborative response to meet survivors just where they are with just what they need.
Right now, those involved in human trafficking of a minor
It's so, man. These streetwalkers, man, these crawlers, that activity is at an all-time high right now. All right, there's so many women out there selling it. It's crazy. But this is the amount of women that, you know, they would refuse to be mothers and wives, you know, up under the leadership of a husband. All right, this is what they would rather do, because you know, Babylon then turned them out. You know, all this demonic influence, you know, these feminist ideologies just ruined these women. So this is where we at with it. This place is, hey, surely your turning of things upside down should be esteemed as the potter's clay. It's crazy.
It's a felony. For the trafficking of an adult, it's a misdemeanor.
So I would ask our state.
That's crazy. So it's a felony if it's a child, but if it's an adult, it's a misdemeanor. This is what we talking about. That's not the proper judgment for that type of crime. If you want to get rid of this type of crime, you gotta make an example, man, to the fullest extent. So what is the law on trafficking humans, period, in general? Let's go to Exodus 21. And verse 16. And it says, and he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. Let me read it in the NLT. Verse 16, it says, kidnappers must be put to death, whether they are caught in possession of their victims or have already sold them as slaves. So that's the judgment on that. Deuteronomy 24 and verse 7, it says, if anyone kidnaps a fellow Israelite and treats him as a slave or sells him, the kidnapper must die. In this way, you will purge the evil from among you. That's how you get rid of these type of crimes, man. You give them the death penalty. You don't just slap them with a freaking misdemeanor. So, yeah, man, this is why this place, the Most High, he's gonna use his only begotten Son to bring it all into judgment. He gonna judge it, you know, since this devil can't do it. All right, he's gonna come with that sickle and he's gonna thresh, trample that wine press, man. All right, and Babylon, when the Lord gets through with it, which is gonna take about an hour, it'll take just an hour. Revelation 18 at verse Revelation 18 and 9, it says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her. This is the aftermath, when they shall see the smoke of her burning. And what's going to do the job? Them thermonuclear missiles, the ICBMs, them arrows that's going to fly. It says, standing afar off from the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city, Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. All right. And that means all the flow of money and trade is going to stop. Okay. It's going to stop that entire flow. And they're going to mourn because of it. And let me jump down to verse 13, because I think this is relevant to the topic. All right. This is all the different materials that was traded. And that's what made this place luxurious. And it made it fattened everybody else's pockets. These other nations that traded. Verse 13, it says, and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beast and the sheep and horses and chariots, you know, cattle and slaves and souls of men. You know, so definitely It's talking about America for sure. All right, them slaves, these are people that have been, trafficked, forced into labor, or forced into, the sex industry. Slaves and the souls of men. And ultimately, we were trafficked. We were brought over here against our will and sold to our enemies. And we're still found in their hand to this day. So what do you think the Lord's going to do? So, yeah, the Most High is going to bring this place straight to judgment. All right. So let me jump down. Verse 18, it says, and in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company of ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High have avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, the abundance to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone, and as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. Shalom.